Yes, towards
just one at a time, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, is that better? Can you hear me? Brilliant. Okay, I'm Councillor Mandy Tromans, a member of the Licensing Committee.
Yeah, welcome everybody. I'm Graham Morton, Councillor Graham Morton, also on the Licensing Committee.
And I'm Councillor Joy Coventry Morton, also a member of the Licensing Committee.
Hi, I'm Mark Wells, Western Lawns owner.
Hi, I'm Denise Banks, General Manager at Western Lawns.
I never ever get used to these things. I should do. My name is Duncan Craig. I'm here to represent the applicant. Thank you.
I'm Damien Eston, acting on behalf of the applicant as consultant.
I'm Julianne Lloyd, Senior Licensing Officer.
Hi, I'm Ricky Casserly. I'm the Technical Officer in licensing, so I deal with all field work, complaint work in relation to licensing to the council.
Hi, I'm Helen Mulholland, Senior Licensing Officer.
I'm Charles Marshall, Willow Lodge, Bedworth Road, Bulkington.
I'm Mark Biggers of Willow Lodge in Bulkington.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Cole, 346 Bedworth Road, Bulkington.
I'm David Cole, 346 Bedworth Road, Bulkington.
I'm Karen Leach from Homestead, Bedworth Road, Bulkington.
And Scott Leach, Homestead, Bedworth Road.
Thank you, everybody. And the next process will be for a member of the licensing subcommittee will be appointed as chair. And therefore, if we have some indications to whom the chair will be.
Certainly, thank you. Okay, welcome everyone. Evacuation procedure right at the beginning. A fire drill is not expected, so if the alarm sounds, please do evacuate the building quickly and calmly. Please use the stairs and do not use the lifts. Once out of the building, please gather outside Warwick House on the opposite side of the road. Exit by the door by which you entered the room or by the fire exits, which are clearly indicated by the standard green fire exit signs. If you need any assistance in evacuating the building, please make yourself known to a member of staff. Please also make sure all your mobile phones are turned off now at this stage or on silent. Thank you.
Apologies, I understand that everybody is present today and you have the declarations of interest of the members within your documentation. Chair, the next point is that we have a preliminary application for an adjournment, and what I would suggest the first move would be is if you could listen to the application for adjournment in itself.
Okay.
First of all, may I say that I'm not accustomed to these sort of proceedings, so I must crave your indulgence for any naivety or lack of understanding, which brings me directly to the point I want to bring before you. There's been quite a bit of toing and froing of correspondence in this particular case, some of which hasn't really appeared in a very timely fashion, but on Monday lunchtime, I actually realised I'd had it at about 1:30 on Monday. This 148-page document appeared, and quite honestly, looking at it very briefly, which is all I've had the opportunity to do up to now, it raises more questions than it answers. It's also full of inconsistencies. Much of it seems to refer to something which might have happened 2 years ago, and I really feel that in any sense of fairness, the people on whom it's suddenly been dumped should have an opportunity to consider it more fully, and furthermore decide if they want to take further advice, i.e. the objectors. And so I make this plea for this hearing to be deferred, at least for a fortnight.
Yes, we support that.
Okay.
Also.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so what we'll do now then, I'll offer the floor to Mr. Duncan Craig. Is it that's doing the speaking on behalf? Over to you, Mr. Craig. Your comments on this application.
There we go. Certainly, Chair. Applications opposed. I'll try not to be too technical here. I know you're being legally advised. First of all, there are statutory time limits contained within the licensing hearing regulations, which require that a hearing such as this has to be held within 20 working days of the end of the representation period, which we are presently within. And you have the power to adjourn these proceedings if it's in the public interest. Firstly, I'll make a number of points in response to the application. These documents have been sent, and Mr. Marshall feels he's disadvantaged by not having read them. In actual fact, I haven't read them cover to cover, and they aren't central to the application for a premises licence here. They are simply served to demonstrate that this is not some fly-by-night flight of fancy, a whimsical, shall we say, application for the grant of a licence. It's a serious application, and essentially the application is founded simply on the basis that there was an application for a premises licence on this site 3 years ago. The structure of the organisation and the investors in the site and the events that were to be held here has changed, and as is the case, and the Licensing Act is clear on this. I think it's either 3.1 or 3.2, 3(1), 3(2), sorry, of the Licensing Act. There's no limit to the number of premises licences that can be held on any particular venue, or the number of licences that an individual can hold on a particular venue. And it's not ordinary in these circumstances, or certainly not unusual in these circumstances, where the ownership of a premises changes, that a separate application goes in for the grant of a licence. So what we're doing here is replacing what's already there with another licence that's been modified slightly, and obviously if the hearing goes ahead, I'll turn to those modifications. The documents that have been served, in actual fact, were the original documents that was served in relation to the previous application. There were significant discussions with the police, there were significant discussions with environmental health, and those documents satisfied them to the point that, firstly, the original licence was granted, and secondly, that there have been no representations by responsible authorities in relation to this application, as they understand that essentially we are swapping like for like, and that's what this application relates to. In terms of the timing of the service of the documents, they were served on Monday morning. Don't believe that's late. It's 148 pages. I am legally qualified. I'm not. I obviously have to take into account lay people's aren't legally qualified like myself. But for 20 years as an adult, before I came to the bar, I was in the licensed trade for 20 years. Operated as a quotes unquote civilian. I wasn't legally qualified, and documents such as these would not have fazed me at that point in time. I would have read them. 143. I would submit 2.5 days to read 148 pages. If Mr. Marshall wished to do that, is an adequate time to do that. I've not dumped them on him on the night before the hearing. the service of those documents is in accordance with the hearing regulations, and so I just make that point as well. But I have to add a further layer to this, which is that last week emailed, because originally we were only aware of 2 objectors, and then there'd been an administrative error, and one of the objectors had been missed off the agenda pack. And look, they've made the representation in time. It's absolutely right that they have a voice in any hearing. And I offered to meet all 3 of them in order to answer any questions that they had about this application, explain some of the misconceptions that they have about it, which I'll turn to in the hearing if it's effective. And I offered to do that. And look, I'm always careful. I'm conscious as a barrister, as a legal professional. Sometimes people don't want to necessarily meet with a lawyer because they think the lawyer's going to use their silken tongue to persuade them of things they don't want to do, or some people are intimidated by that, and I'm conscious of that, which is why I offered to meet in person on Tuesday, or alternatively, I was perfectly happy to do that by a Zoom or a Teams call, and both those offers were declined. So whilst some reference has been made to that particular time, I would have had that meeting at any time that was available online. Yeah, look, yeah, all right. That offer was made last week. It could have been made. I'm just incredibly busy, and I have to deal with things as they come into my purview. And I do not think that the time that was afforded to the objectors was unreasonable. I've given them a couple of days to say, look, I will happily meet you via Teams. And those 3 offers were declined. I've actually served that as further supporting evidence. And so for Mr. Marshall to say that there are things in here that he needs, well, I would have happily explained matters to him and taken the time to do that on behalf of my client. I always have to be careful with these situations. I'm here to represent my client, the applicant, but obviously it's my job to try and smooth any issues out and narrow the issues down between the parties if I'm in a position to do that. That offer was made and that offer was declined, and so on that basis, what I don't want to do, I mean, my client's paying for my time today. If we go away and come back, they're going to have to pay for me again, and I don't think that's fair in the circumstances when a hand has been extended and it's been declined, and that may have addressed a number of issues that the objectors had. So, for that reason, and given the statutory time limits, and given the way that given the nature of the documentation, the fact it's not absolutely central to this application, it's simply because the other thing is as well, I need to make this point, event manuals, risk assessments, they're evolving working documents anyway. So when we get to this time next year, assuming the license is granted and it's operational, then they won't resemble exactly what you're seeing today anyway. It's just simply to demonstrate that there are a number of documents, that there's a lot of thought has gone into this previously, and that will remain the case going forward should this licence be granted. So for all those reasons, the application to adjourn is objected to, because simply we just want to get on with things in accordance with the statutory time limits. So I don't know if I can assist you any further.
Thank you very much. I've got one thought. You didn't comment on the suggestion that perhaps they needed or might need to take advice, which I assume is legal advice.
Well, they've had the opportunity to take that advice for the last however many 20 working days. As I say, these documents they aren't legal documents. They're not anything that's going to change the legal flavour of the application in any way. So they're not legal documents. It's not anything that, I mean, they are obviously, I mean, frankly, there are things in there that I don't understand. Noise management plans, they always frazzle my brain, quite frankly, the technical language that gets used in them. I mean, look, people are entitled to take legal advice, but I wouldn't say any advice that the objectors would require to take in relation to this application, it would be enhanced in any way by those documents. The application in full was available on the register. That is what we are determining today. This is, I'd say it was ancillary to that, so it's not central, is my submission in relation to that.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Marshall, before we adjourn, is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yes, there is, sir. With respect, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Craig's intervention would have sounded a great deal less disingenuous had he admitted that he approached us without saying that there was further documentation to come. He simply sent an email to all of us saying that he'd be prepared to answer any questions. That was about all that was in the email, very little else. But he didn't say, oh, by the way, there's a large wad of papers amounting to 148 pages, which I could have issued now, but I'm not going to. I'm going to keep it till the very last minute on the hope of catching you on the hoof. And when it arrived with us, the supporting note said, the attached supporting documentation from the agent in respect of the application. So it was made obvious that it was important, not trivial, as has just been suggested, and as such, in any sense of fairness, the objectors should have the opportunity to consider it properly, and particularly the question of whether legal representation is required. Unfortunately, throughout this case, it's been very difficult to know what we were dealing with. It's almost like being put in the position of fighting with mirrors.
Chair, I do feel I have to respond when I'm being accused of being disingenuous in a licensing hearing. I do probably do more licensing hearing than any other legal professional in the country, and the notion that I would ever mislead a committee, or it'd just be career suicide for me. The key point in terms of what Mr. Marshall has said is that I had arranged a time of between 9:30 and 10:30 on Tuesday, or suggested a time, and the documents were served on Monday morning. So, and they were scanned in fact, over the weekend, around the time, just after the time that the email had sent. So I was well aware that at the time I suggested the meeting, that the objectors would be in receipt of the supporting documentation. So the notion that in any way there was any sleight of hand going on just simply doesn't bear up to the facts. I asked to have the meeting knowing that the objectors would have those documents at the time that the meeting was scheduled. So that's just simply wrong and out of order, actually, that I'm being accused of being disingenuous by Mr. Marshall. Completely out of order, actually. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll now adjourn to make a decision on whether to defer and adjourn. Sorry, Clark, sorry. Okay, any other comments from the floor at all?
Can we just say that obviously we're going through this licensing. We were unaware they'd already got a license. So to us, it was a shock that they're applying to change a license. I just thought I'd put that out there.
Okay. Yeah, you're quite right that there is already a premises license in place for pretty much almost replicating the license application that we're discussing today. The main difference in the application really is the trading entity, the vehicle in which that license sits. But I will say that license was granted several years ago, and was obviously known to the public. That documentation there that Mr. Marshall has briefly read has been widely available since that application was granted. So my view is, if any of you had concerns about that original application, which is almost replicated with this application, then given in Mr. Marshall's letter we're only 300 yards away from your property, then you know, a chat, a discussion, a knock on the door about any concerns, you know, would possibly have, well, would have been a good thing in my view. So yeah, that's what I'd like to comment.
Important for the in the interests of every. Okay. All right.
Briefly. In respect of what has just been said, of course, we've only lived in the present address since August last year. So this is a very steep learning curve for us. And having stuff like this dropped on us doesn't make it any easier.
I think maybe when your conveyancing did the conveyancing on the property, then they perhaps it would have been wise for them to have highlighted to you that there was a facility not too far ago. Yeah. There's 2 premises license, sorry, yeah. Now, yeah, we do have, yeah, sorry, sticking with your point, not to deliberate.
Okay, then strictly, is there any new points that anyone wants to make on the adjournment request? No, no. Okay, new points on the adjournment.
Just going back to the advertisement of the licence, which was put on 3 lampposts, which was outside the property of Western Lawns. There was none, apparently there was plenty. I think, was it you? I did email you that there was plenty down there. There wasn't. My husband cuts the grass regularly down there, and there was certainly no other. And plus, we didn't see it till about five days before. Oh, sorry.
Okay, point taken, but we are strictly dealing with the adjournment request. So that's where we'll go. We're now going to adjourn. We're going to leave. It makes it easy for you all. Is there water available for people? There is water in the corridor. So do help yourselves. We'll be as quick as we can, and we'll be back to you shortly. Thank you. Okay, having considered the application to adjourn this today and the representations from the applicant and his legal representative and responses from the representatives, the panel has decided that it would be in the public interest to adjourn this hearing for 2 weeks. That's for the representatives to seek your representatives to seek legal advice or expert advice, should you so wish, based on the additional information that was received by yourselves on Monday. Okay, so this hearing will now take place on Wednesday the 3rd of August at 11 a.m.
Chair, can I just check my diary, please? Because it does fill up quickly. Because certainly I think it wouldn't be fair if I wasn't available. But let me check, if I may. Just check now. Yeah, I have an appeal on the 3rd of August at the glamorous location of Blackpool Magistrates Court. So, is it Wednesdays? Is that the? Well, I'm available on the 10th if that assists.
Sorry, that's not convenient for me on the 10th. I'm working 11 hours a day that week, so from 6 in the morning. Yeah, I can do the week after.
Yeah, I can do the 17th as things stand.
Mr. Craig, can you do the day before? The 2nd of August? Tuesday the 2nd of August?
Well, yes. That week's mental. That's the only day. I'm going to have an even more mental week now. Yes, I can do the 2nd. Thank you. 2nd.
I don't think we can expect everyone to be available on every day that we quote. But, sir, Mr. Marshall, to start with, the 2nd, would that be okay with you? Tuesday the 2nd, okay, at 11 a.m. Are we getting some? I know you're busy, I know. Mr. and Mrs. Leach? Yeah, okay, so we will adjourn then, unless there's any further comment.
Yeah, can I just say, I'm more than happy to meet any of the objectors in the intervening period, and they've got my email address if they want to contact me. Thank you.
Excuse me, Chair. Are you saying 11 a.m. still on the 2nd?
We are, yes, 11 a.m. on the 2nd.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thanks very much. Thanks for your applications. It wasn't an easy decision, I have to say, but we made it. That's where we'll be. We'll see you all in almost 2 weeks' time. Thank you. Thank you.